Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you have to play out a scene between two NPCs while you are, of course, running the game for your players and they're sitting on at the other end of the table watching you sort of debating with yourself? It's actually a question that I found on Twitter this morning when I was checking out our giveaway contest, which you have over there right now. You can also check out our previous video, which has the details for sort of participating in this giveaway. Leave a comment, like that video, subscribe to the channel, and also check out our Twitter and our mailing list. I'll leave some links in the description. Anyway, that's not the point here. The point is this situation where you're role-playing NPCs having a debate with one another. How do we handle this as DMs in a way where we can sort of communicate the story or the scene that we're trying to communicate and not just making it a very boring self-conversation that the players and their characters are not a part of? Well, in my experience, there are a few ways that we would want to handle this situation. The first method, and this is my preferred method, is to keep these sort of interactions at a minimum and then to keep them very short. This NPC says this to the other NPC, and then the NPC says, oh, well, that's not the truth. I heard that and that. And then there's not a rebuttal. There's not a back and forth, three and four times back and forth, because that is when it becomes too long and too awkward for the players to sit and see you discussing with yourself. You bring one NPC's argument, you bring the other NPC's argument, and then you make a pause to let the characters get themselves involved. So an example of this could be that the characters are suspicious of two NPCs. They think one of them is the villain that sort of ambushed them the day before, whatever. One NPC says, it couldn't have been me, I was here and there doing that stuff, but I have seen him talking with the bandits that ambush you. And the other NPC says, well, that's not true at all, because I was doing this and that other thing at the time, and I have no reason to ambush you, but I saw this NPC guy do this, and the other NPC guy says, you're a liar, and the first NPC says, I'll kill you. And then we pause, because they have talked to the characters, trying to convince them, they've then briefly talked to each other. And we can take a pause here to let the characters be at the center of the scene once more. So that's one way you can do it. Really try to keep interactions between NPCs very, very short and give the characters moments to intervene and to make themselves a part of it, so they are at least in between you talking to yourself. Now, for obvious reasons, that isn't always possible, because sometimes you have scenes where it doesn't really make sense for the character to get involved. If you have like a courtroom scene, for example, or a knighting ceremony or wedding or whatever, you may not want the characters to just step up and say or do something just in the middle of a ceremony or a court proceeding. And what you want to do here is you want to take the key dramatic events or the key dramatic dialogue and bring that to the forefront. So you'll have that you can't handle the truth, or whatever it is, screamed out in the courtroom, if that's a sentence or a dialogue you particularly like. But then all of the minutiae, all of the finger pointing and the back and forth, you want to paraphrase that. You want to say, basically, the defense lawyer in this case says that this, that, and the other thing. He shows this illusionary video projection of the accused doing this, that, and the other thing, and then he finishes off by saying, and if you have any sense of justice, you will put this man to jail, whatever. The key point here is that you want to paraphrase as much as possible and keep the back and forth NPC dialogue to a minimum, but taking those very, very dramatic bits, those cinematic bits, and putting them on, in the limelight, putting them to the forefront. As a final tip, it's always good as a DM to sort of stop yourself if you can feel yourself going down a tangent, whether it's speaking to NPCs or running a combat or whatever it is, and really look around at your players. Are they enjoying themselves right now? Because if they aren't, if they seem a bit bored or disconnected, it may not just be that they have bad manners or that they're not really paying attention. It may be that you are doing something that really isn't interesting, and if there's any way you can sort of wrap that up, it might be a good idea to do so. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot left to say, except thank you for watching, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video.